If you've been using Consumer Reports to choose your next air conditioner, we need to talk.
Meet Chris, an HVAC expert who installed his first system at just 11 years old. Since 2000, he has been running his company full-time, working on everything from massive industrial facilities to high-rise office buildings and thousands of high-end residential projects. With over 100 Fortune 500 clients and a reputation for solving the most complex HVAC challenges alongside top engineers, Chris knows this industry inside and out. But here's the thing, he believes the residential HVAC market is the most underserved and convoluted part of the industry. That's why he created the Information for Consumer show to bring real, honest HVAC knowledge directly to homeowners like you. No sales gimmicks, no confusion, just expert advice to help you stay comfortable and save money. And now, the Information for Customer Success show.
If you've been using Consumer Reports to choose your next air conditioner, we need to talk. Let me just back up and tell you why I'm making this show. So, I love my clients who do research. I'm a big fan of that. My personal belief is that anyone who really cares will do a certain level of education for themselves, especially with bigger investments. You have to, right? However, it can be overdone. I have my fair share of experiences where people do slightly too much education. Now, Chris, how is that possible? Too much education. Well, when you consume so much data from so many different sources without sometimes having the fundamentals of the knowledge behind it, it might just confuse you, or perhaps the worst thing ever, it might make you into an expert. It might make you think you know the answer already and are not wavering from that answer. Or perhaps you really don't have time to do all this research. You just want to go about your life, I get it, and just want some quick answers without diving deep into watching YouTube video after YouTube video. That's why I'm doing the show. There are so many good educational podcasts, YouTube videos where you can get a lot of information. There's a lot of good guys doing this kind of stuff. But sometimes they make it very specific to, perhaps the region they're working in that doesn't quite apply to, the region you're in, or they just kind of overcomplicate the issue. So I have listened to enough of my customers to understand that things should be simple. I promise to make things very simple and short, hopefully a little bit of fun too, right? That's why I'm doing the show. For me to keep doing this, please, I need everyone who finds this informative to like it and subscribe. And if you have any topics you want me to cover, then just send an email to questions@icshvac.com. questions@icshvac.com. And now, let's discuss why looking at Consumer Reports to find out what air conditioning system you want in your house is just plain wrong. Hey, listen, I get it. Consumer Reports is a trusted name. They do great work for products. Things like cars, right? If I'm buying a new Toyota, that Toyota is going to be the same exact product that I get over here in my local dealership, or if I go to a dealership 3 states away. Now, I may choose the dealership because of proximity, right? I may choose them because of good service, but the product is the product. The Toyota truck is made somewhere in the Toyota factory. And if I'm comparing Toyota Model A to Toyota Model A at the different dealerships, I'm comparing the same exact thing. And it's very fair for something like Consumer Reports to actually grade and review that Toyota. Appliances, dishwashers, things of that you plug and play. They can review all that stuff, and they do a wonderful and amazing job reviewing. I'm the one who uses Consumer Reports myself a lot of times, and they're a great resource. I get it, Consumer Reports is a trusted name. They do great work, but HVAC doesn't work like buying a dishwasher. They review equipment, and here's the truth. The best equipment can perform terribly if it's installed poorly, and even the lower rated stuff can work great if the system is designed and installed properly. So an HVAC unit may look like a product. It has a brand name, has a model. You can compare things like SEER ratings and COPs and things of that sort. But that's where the similarities end. An air conditioning or heat pump is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. The system's performance depends on so many factors, and part of it is, number one is proper sizing. Proper sizing of equipment, picking the proper size equipment. And by the way, most systems that we are referring to are going to be what's called split systems, meaning they're made up of two components, right? They're split. They're not one packaged product. There's going to be an outdoor unit and an indoor unit. And there's combinations where you can pick a different indoor unit and different model outdoor unit and pair them together, and they give you different results. It doesn't always mean that one outdoor unit always pairs with the same indoor unit. There's going to be ductwork design and condition, airflow balancing, refrigeration charge, location of installation, how it's maintained, and things of that sort, of course, make a difference. But there's a lot that goes into it, including proper accessory installation, including proper startup commissioning installation as well, and methods that some companies follow, some do not follow. Those all make a difference. You are not buying a product. You are buying performance. And performance comes from the people designing and installing the system. The nuance that I'm talking about is essentially what is a product versus what is a system. A product is mass-produced. It works right out of the box. It performs consistently no matter who installs it or uses it. A toaster, a TV, right? You plug in a TV, the TV's the TV. You plug in a toaster, it's the toaster. A washing machine, power and water. Now, can somebody installing it kind of screw it up? Yeah, they can probably screw up the hose connections or something of that sort, and you're going to see the repercussions of that right away with a water leak. But you unbox it, you plug it in, and it works the same whether you bought it online or at a local store. This is an air handler. This is the appliance. But this has nothing to do with the manufacturer. This is a condensate disposal installed in the field. This is a refrigerant pipe installed in the field, sized properly to match the capacity of this air handler. This is an electrical line, not part of this unit either. Totally installed, custom, wiring sized appropriate to code and the requirements of the air handler. This is ductwork. It's got nothing to do with this air handler. Appropriately sized for the amount of CFM that this air handler moves. This is filtration. This filtration has nothing to do with this air handler. But again, this filter cabinet and the specs on this filter are properly sized to handle the amount of air needed to move for heating and cooling to this air handler. These are all individual outlets where the ductwork dumps air into various grills in the house. Again, appropriately sized, and if you can see this little mark is different. It's also tested and adjusted for the proper airflow to each room to ensure there's proper heating and cooling in each space. Nothing to do with the manufacturer or the air handler or anything that the manufacturer really does for you. The only thing that we have here is that the amount of volume, the amount of CFM, and all of these will of course have to match what this air handler is doing. Now we've got this ductwork, and great, everybody puts ductwork together, but we want to make sure that if we are specifying a unit that provides 800 CFM, that 800 CFM get delivered to each space. Well, this is why this is a detail that not everybody does, but it seals up the ductwork to make sure there's no air escaping here, right? If we don't seal these connections, guess what happens? Air escapes all through here, a little bit of air here, a little bit of air from the next connection, a little bit of air from the next connection. And you add that up, you could easily lose 30, 40% of the air before it gets into the house. Systems are composed of things like this, a branch box. It comes from the manufacturer, but wiring, the type of wiring, where it runs, how it runs, nothing to do with the manufacturer. Control wiring, type of wiring, where it runs, how it runs, nothing to do with the manufacturer. Piping sizes, making sure they're done correct, making sure their distances are within specifications. Again, manufacturer will have recommendations, but manufacturer doesn't control this. Whoever installs them in the field does. Here we have a system that is getting started up. Now, this is all stuff from the manufacturer. Look at the amount of wiring, the amount of control wiring that has to come in, where it gets connected, how it gets connected. Well, the manufacturer doesn't do this. I mean, yes, the manufacturer shipped it with this, but the installer has to figure out where to connect it, how to commission it. More condensate removal stuff, right? This does not come from the manufacturer. Somebody in the field has to do this. This is a secondary safety switch. This is a drain. Now, this is a drain trap. How this is connected, where it's connected to, here's a pump. It's an integral part of your air conditioning system. However, it's got nothing to do with the manufacturer of this equipment. More filtration stuff. So here's a manufacturer. Here's Mitsubishi, right? Here's filtration. It's Honeywell. But I can install it this way, that way. I can install it on smaller ducts and bigger ducts. There's a method for how this is installed and what it does. Manufacturer doesn't do it. The installer is the one who decides the final way, the final version of how this is installed, and if it's effective, and if it functions with its highest possible efficiency. So this, by the way, is the best way to install a media filter. Vertical like this, or should I say horizontal in a vertical return line, capturing every piece of dirt that just comes down here and stopping it right here. And again, you notice sealed ductwork, sealed ductwork. All these details I'm pointing out. If you don't have these details, how will this reflect on the manufacturer? Here's a Mitsubishi unit. If I did everything here wrong and things go wrong, and I'm somebody who reports for Consumer Reports, what am I reporting on? That Mitsubishi messed this up, messed that up? I don't think so. Now, this is another manufacturer's piece of equipment, but again, everything surrounding it has to do with the installation installer. Everything from the control wiring feeding it, to how it's connected, to the power wiring feeding it, to how exactly it's connected to the unit, and of course, electrical local codes, making sure that everything is done properly. The piping, the filter dryer, the method it's installed, the direction it's installed, disconnect switch, and of course a very important surge protector on pieces of equipment like that. Those are all things that are not something manufactured. We also have these specific mounts that are connected to this condenser from the manufacturer. Now, that's something that the installer does. There's different ways of installing it. There's stands. You can do this on a stand. You can do this on a different lift. There's different applications and different reasons for it. Everything is under the discretion of the installer. We have a furnace here, and we have some of the devices we spoke about, and of course there's the gas line, right? The gas line is done by the installer. The sizing of the gas line, the way it's connected, the way you can have a flex, depends on your jurisdiction, of course. And we have a special thing in here, which is a neutralizer. Well, this is something that's skipped by pretty much, I would say, 75% of contractors. There's a reason to have a neutralizer on a high efficiency furnace. That's, again, something done by the installer, and it's a step that could be missed. All of this could be wrong, and it sits outside the responsibility of the manufacturer.
Let's define a product. A product is something that is mass produced, like a coffee maker. It works the same for everyone who buys it. HVAC doesn't work that way, right? We kind of established that way. You're not just buying a box. You're investing in how that box is designed, installed, and tuned in your house. It's a whole complete system made up of many different components. And Consumer Reports is not reviewing your work. It's not reviewing the installer's work. It's not reviewing individual installers, right? It's reviewing is just a small part of the entire picture, which is the product. So are you getting a full, a coherent and transparent review of air conditioning systems through Consumer Reports? I'm going to say no. You're getting a partial review of what we just talked about, which is just the product side. Your next job is to pick who installs that product, and to me that is far more important than looking at Consumer Reports for products. And on another show, we will go over exactly how the heck do you pick your contractor? So I hope I really clarified some things for you when you guys do use Consumer Reports. And the reason I did this show is because I had customers that basically, whipped out Consumer Reports and said, I want this product, that product. And that's the only thing I'll take. And they were sort of very stubborn about it. And I kind of told them, well, Consumer Reports actually picked maybe 50% of the products available out there. They actually didn't even rate some of the products that I'm able to sell you. And let me tell you why some of them are a better situation or better deal for you that Consumer Reports didn't even bother with. Or perhaps Consumer Reports has a highly rated product that, doesn't quite, in my area, have good support. So that's another reason too, is that contractors will make alliances with different manufacturers' reps that have strong support in the area. So there's a certain product which we at ICS sell that used to be a fantastic product back in the day, but the company totally changed the way it operates. It no longer provides the same level of support for us. Now that product is still great, and somewhere else in the country, I talk to them, I know there's contractors that still use that product. They love that product and they get strong support. We don't sell that product here because we don't have that strong support in our local area. So therefore, I'm going to say, hey, Consumer Reports would say that's a great product, but it would suck if you need parts because they never stocked them. You always have to wait, and there's always issues with processing warranty. So therefore, don't listen to Consumer Reports. Listen to your contractor.
If you thought you found this very useful, and I hope you did, I hope I'm not wasting my time, subscribe, like it, and share it. And of course, send any kind of topics you want me to cover to questions@icshvac.com, questions@icshvac.com. It's an inbound email only. I will receive them. Hopefully I'll get plenty where I can choose from what my next topic is.